Last week we looked at the early life of Bellatrix LeStrange up to the point where she escaped from Azkaban. We're going to pick up today at the Battle of the Department of Mysteries. So in 1996, after her breakout from Azkaban, Bellatrix, her husband Rodolphus, and her brother-in-law Rabastan were members of a Death Eater task force led by Lucius Malfoy. The purpose of this task force was to steal a prophecy regarding Lord Voldemort and Harry Potter. When Harry dared to speak Voldemort's real name, Bellatrix was enraged. More so when Harry, quite boldly, should I say, mentioned Voldemort's status as a half-blood. This upset her so much that she actually tried to stun Harry, but this was deflected by Lucius as he didn't want the prophecy to get harmed in the crossfire. Got his priorities straight. When speaking with the members of Dumbledore's army, Bellatrix was incredibly condescending. She tried to get the prophecy from Harry by using a summoning charm, but this was deflected by Harry. But she was relentless, willing to do whatever it took to retrieve this prophecy. The things she was prepared to do were threatening to torture Ginny Weasley with the Cruciatus Curse, who was just 14 at the time. However, she did actually torture Neville with that curse in a bid to have Harry hand over the prophecy. So not only did she torture his parents with the Cruciatus Curse, she then turned it on Neville as well, which is just awful. Once the Order of the Phoenix members arrived, Bellatrix duelled and defeated her own niece, Nymphadora Tonks. She then moved on to her cousin Sirius Black, who she taunted during their duel. Now, as we know, she eventually hit him with a spell that sent him through the veil in the Death Chamber. Unfortunately, that was the end of Sirius Black. After Sirius's death, she then defeated Kingsley Shacklebolt before deciding to just flee. Harry, as we know, was distraught at the loss of Sirius, and he pursued Bellatrix into the atrium in an attempt to avenge Sirius. During the pursuit, Bellatrix continued to taunt Harry about the death of his godfather and their relationship. Harry tried to use a Cruciatus Curse on Bellatrix, but it only knocked her over, causing mere seconds of pain. Dropping her she then lectured Harry on his failure to execute the curse properly, before resolving to torture him herself in order to demonstrate the full strength of the curse. How kind, what a teaching moment. However, she was not able to attack Harry successfully, and realising that the prophecy had been destroyed, she started to panic. She reportedly tried to summon the prophecy from Harry, who just laughed at her efforts. Bellatrix was also unaware at this point that Voldemort had arrived at the Ministry. Upon realising he was there, however, she pleaded with him not to be punished and tried to warn Voldemort that Dumbledore was near. However, Voldemort ignored this and just continued to try and kill Harry. As the killing curse was released from his wand towards Harry, Dumbledore arrived and enchanted the fountain to act as reinforcements as well as to protect Harry. To further ensure that Bellatrix could not intervene, she was pinned to the ground by the enchanted witch statue. Before Voldemort and Dumbledore duelled, Dumbledore had actually summoned Fudge and several Aurors to the Ministry by using the statues as messengers via the fireplaces in the atrium. Voldemort tried to possess Harry but failed, resulting in him grabbing Bellatrix and fleeing. But not before Fudge and the Aurors saw him. The remaining Death Eaters were immobilised and caught by the Ministry only moments later, with Bellatrix being the only one who escaped. Now this was due to Voldemort intervening, and this can actually be seen as a testament to his acknowledgement of her loyalty towards him. Now, sometime following this, Bellatrix and Voldemort would actually start an intimate relationship, resulting in the birth of their daughter, Delphi. Their daughter was then handed over to the royal family, who would raise her, as they were also a family sworn to Voldemort. So they didn't actually raise their daughter, probably for the best. They weren't the best role models, and they're on the run. It's probably not a great environment for a kid. In July of 1996, Bellatrix accompanied her sister Narcissa to Severus Snape's house, where she interrogated him and vocalised her distrust of him. This is where Narcissa and Snape entered into the unbreakable vow, with Bellatrix binding them. Furthermore, Bellatrix assisted her nephew in his task to kill Dumbledore. She taught him occlumency, which is the magic of closing one's mind against legitimacy, the art of mind reading. Bellatrix told Narcissa that she should be proud of the task bestowed to her son, further showing us her obsessive loyalty to her master. The following year, Bellatrix was actually living with Narcissa at Malfoy Manor, and she was the only one who was living at the manor who was genuinely pleased that Voldemort was also living there as well. Despite her unwavering loyalty, Voldemort humiliated her and her family by mentioning the marriage of Nymphadora Tonks, her niece, to the werewolf Remus Lupin. However, Bellatrix stated that her and her sister Narcissa did not actually consider Nymphadora to be their niece, on account they had disowned her sister for marrying a Muggleborn. Voldemort then suggested that Bellatrix continue to prune her family tree, which she eagerly agreed to do as soon as possible. Despite how loyal she was to her master, even Bellatrix actually hesitated when Voldemort expressed his need for a wand, in order for him to circumvent that problem of his own wand not wanting to kill Harry. When the Death Eaters attacked the Order of the Phoenix, Bellatrix and her husband followed a disguised Ron Weasley and Tonks, whom she tried very hard to kill. However, Rodolphus was injured in this pursuit and Tonks escaped. Soon after, a copy of the Sword of Gryffindor was stored within Bellatrix's family vault in Gringotts. However, Bellatrix and her fellow Death Eaters were unaware it was a copy, but the goblins noticed straight away. Now, they elected not to mention it due to their disgust at the new wizard control of their bank. Now, I'm going to leave that video there. As I mentioned in the last one, I could talk about this for hours, and if I did all 3 parts together, it would be like a half-an-hour video. So I wanted to break it down into sort of easier segments you can just pick up as and when you want to. But we do actually have another part left to come. So do come back next week, where we're going to pick up at the skirmish at Malfoy Manor. Let me know if there is anyone else in any other franchise that you like or you love that you want me to do a deep dive into. I always love doing these 3-part deep dives. I find them so interesting. But until next time, guys, you take care.